Broke Millennial by Erin Lowry. Picture this. It's the summer of 1996, and a 7-year-old girl is about to learn a lesson that'll stick with her forever. And believe it or not, it all started with a box of Krispy Kreme donuts. Her name was Erin, and she was watching her mom run a yard sale when inspiration struck. If people were actually paying money for dusty old exercise tapes, imagine what they'd shell out for fresh, delicious donuts sold by two adorable kids. In her mind, she was already planning which Nerf Super Soaker she'd buy with her massive profits. She pitched her brilliant business plan to her parents, and her dad agreed to be her investor. One trip to Krispy Kreme later, she and her little sister were in business. They set up shop at a small picnic table and spent hours calling out to anyone who'd listen, hawking donuts for 50 cents each. Finally, they sold the last one. Erin clutched her fanny pack full of coins, feeling like an absolute boss. That Super Soaker was as good as hers. Heck, maybe she could buy two and dominate every water fight that summer. Then her dad walked over with a smile. "Let me see what you made," he said. She hugged the fanny pack protectively, but he gently took it, dumped the coins on the table, and started counting. "You've got $30 here." "Yes," she beamed. "I'm going to Toys R Us." Her dad's smile got a little wider. "Well, the donuts cost me $8. He slid $8 in quarters to his side of the table. "Then your sister helped you, so she needs to get paid." He handed $6 to her 4-year-old sister. "So after expenses, your actual profit is $16. She'd never felt so betrayed in her entire life. That little girl was Erin Lowry, and that moment of childhood heartbreak became the foundation of a financial education that would eventually help millions of young people take control of their money. Erin Lowry's book, Broke Millennial, Stop Scraping By and Get Your Financial Life Together, isn't your typical snooze fest about spreadsheets and compound interest formulas. It's a real talk guide, written by someone who gets that money can feel confusing, scary, and like something you'd rather just pretend doesn't exist. This book became a phenomenon because it does something remarkable. It takes the terror out of personal finance and actually makes it feel manageable. Today we're diving into the most powerful lessons from her work. By the time we're done, you'll have a clear, simple framework for taking control of your financial life. You won't just learn what to do. You'll understand why you've been feeling so weird about money, and you'll have actual tools to change things starting right now. This isn't about becoming a millionaire by next Tuesday. It's about something way more valuable, getting your financial life together. So where do we start? Not with boring spreadsheets or complicated formulas. We begin with a simple but eye-opening question. When you think about money, is it a Tinder date or marriage material? Seriously, is your paycheck something you just use for a good time and forget about? Or are you building an actual relationship with it? How you answer reveals everything about your financial future. Because understanding money isn't about being a math genius. It's about understanding yourself. The way you handle your finances is driven almost entirely by your mindset and the stories you tell yourself about money, often without even realizing it. These stories usually come from childhood. Did your parents argue about money in hushed, tense voices? Was it a topic that just never came up, like it was too taboo to discuss? Maybe you thought everything was fine until suddenly a job was lost or the economy tanked. These early experiences shape what Erin calls our money hang-ups, and if we don't face them head-on, we'll just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. Erin suggests that most of us fall into one of 3 camps when it comes to money and the future. See which one sounds like you. First, there's Team YOLO FOMO. You only live once meets fear of missing out. This is the drinks are on me crowd. The person who sees $150 left in their bank account but says, "Heck yeah, I can totally take that trip." Their Instagram looks amazing with all the hashtags like blessed and living the dream, but their bank account is telling a very different story. The real danger for this team? A future that looks a lot like working until you die. Next is Team Guarded Optimist. This person's theme song is basically, "Don't worry, I'll totally be earning 6 figures by the time I'm 30. They're not saving as much as they should, but they tell themselves it's fine because they'll just catch up later when they're making bank. Optimism is great, but without a solid plan, it can be a dangerous fantasy. Finally, there's teen dreaming about retirement. This person is constantly thinking about bumping their retirement contribution from 15% to 18%. They might turn down invitations to go out, not because they can't afford it, but because they're terrified of spending money, just in case something happens later. This mindset is financially smart, but it can come at the cost of actually enjoying life right now. After all, you can't take the money with you. Recognizing which team you're on is the crucial first step. It's not about judging yourself, it's about awareness. Because once you know your tendencies, you can start building a system that works with them instead of fighting against them. And that system, the foundation for everything else, starts with the dreaded B word, budget. Now before you zone out, hear me out. A budget isn't a financial prison. It's not about deprivation or restriction. A budget is about control. It's about telling your money where to go instead of wondering where the heck it went. And here's the good news. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. You have to find the style that fits your personality. If you're someone who constantly gets blindsided by your credit card bill, you might need what Erin calls the cash diet. It's super simple. You pay for almost everything in actual cash. You figure out your monthly income, subtract your fixed bills like rent and student loans, and what's left is your spending money for the month. You take out a set amount of cash each week, and when it's gone, it's gone. There's a psychological power to physically handing over cash that you just don't feel when you're swiping plastic. It forces you to actually think about what you're buying. Maybe you're more of a data person who likes knowing all the details. For you, there's the tracking every penny system. For at least a couple of weeks, you write down literally every single thing you buy. Every coffee, every pack of gum, every random subscription you forgot about. It sounds tedious, but it's one of the most eye-opening exercises you can do. One of Erin's friends tried this and was shocked to discover she was dropping nearly $20 a week on bottled water. Just by switching to a reusable bottle, she added $80 a month back into her budget. That's the power of actually knowing where your money goes. Or you could try the envelope system. This is where you literally put cash into different envelopes for different spending categories: rent, groceries, entertainment. Once the entertainment envelope is empty, your fun for the month is officially over. It's a very visual and disciplined way to manage spending. Of course, in our digital age, you can do this same thing with multiple bank accounts or budgeting apps that work the same way. The point is to find a system, any system, that gives you a crystal clear picture of your cash flow, what's coming in and what's going out. Because once you have that clarity, you can start making conscious choices instead of just reacting. You can start to build something real. And the first thing you need to build is a safety net, also known as your emergency fund. Financial experts talk about this constantly, and for good reason. An emergency fund is your personal insurance policy against disaster. It's the money that keeps a car breakdown from becoming a full-blown financial crisis. It's what lets you walk away from a toxic job without having a panic attack. The classic advice is to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up. But for a young person just starting out, that can feel like being asked to climb Mount Everest in flip-flops. So Erin offers a way more realistic starting point. If you have debt, your first goal is simple: save $1,000. Just $1,000. That small buffer is enough to handle most of life's unexpected curveballs, without having to reach for a credit card and dig yourself deeper into a hole. Once you're debt-free, then you can work your way up to that 6-month cushion. But how do you save when it feels like every penny is already spoken for? This brings us to one of the most powerful mantras in personal finance: pay yourself first. This means that the very first bill you pay when you get your paycheck isn't to your landlord or your phone company. It's to your future self. Before you spend a dime on anything else, you move a portion of your money into a separate savings account. The secret? Automate it. Set up an automatic transfer from checking to savings for the day right after you get paid. Start small. It could be just $10 per paycheck. You'll find that you adapt pretty quickly. You won't even miss it. Then you can gradually bump up the amount. The key is making saving a habit, not an afterthought. And where should you put this savings? This is where the book literally pays for itself. So many of us just use the same bank our parents did, some big traditional bank with branches everywhere. And that bank is probably paying you an interest rate of something pathetic like 0.01% on your savings. Let me put that in perspective. If you save $2,000 for a whole year at that rate, you will earn a whopping 20 cents. Meanwhile, the bank is taking your money and loaning it out to other people at way, way higher interest rates. It's a terrible deal for you. The solution? Internet-only banks. Because they don't have the overhead costs of physical branches, they can offer much higher interest rates, often around 1% or more. That same $2,000 would earn you $20 instead of 20 cents. It's a simple switch that can earn you hundreds, even thousands of dollars over time. Just make sure any bank you use is federally insured, which means your money is protected up to $250,000 if the bank fails. Now let's talk about the financial tool that causes more fear and confusion than almost anything else: credit. Your credit score is basically a report card for your financial life. It's a number, usually between 300 and 850, that tells lenders how responsible you are with borrowed money. A high score means you're seen as reliable, and it unlocks better interest rates on everything from car loans to mortgages. A low score can cost you a fortune in extra interest or even get you rejected for an apartment. Your goal should be to join the 700-plus club. A score above 700 tells the world you know how to handle your finances. So how is this magical number calculated? It comes from information in your credit report, which is a detailed history of how you've used debt. It's based on 5 main factors, but 2 of them are way more important than the others. The most important factor, making up 35% of your score, is your payment history. It's straightforward. Do you pay your bills on time? Every single late payment can damage your score. The second most important factor, at 30%, is something called amounts owed, or your utilization ratio. This is the percentage of your available credit that you're actually using. Imagine you have a credit card with a $1,000 limit. If you have a balance of $300, your utilization is 30%. The golden rule? Keep your utilization below 30%. Someone who's constantly maxing out their cards looks risky to lenders, even if they pay their bills on time. The other 3 factors are the length of your credit history, your mix of credit types, and any new credit you've recently applied for. But if you just focus on those first 2, paying on time and keeping your balances low, you'll be well on your way to a fantastic score. This brings us to one of the biggest and most damaging myths in personal finance. You've probably heard this from a well-meaning friend or family member. You need to carry a balance on your credit card from month to month to build your credit score. This is 100% completely, totally false. You never, ever need to pay a single penny in interest to build a great credit score. Credit card companies make an absolute fortune from people who only pay the minimum due. The interest rates are insanely high, often over 20%, and it's exactly how people fall into a debt trap that feels impossible to escape. The first and most important rule of using a credit card is simple and non-negotiable. Pay it off, on time and in full, every single month. So how do you build credit if you have none? Maybe you've been rejected for a credit card because you have what's called a thin file, not enough credit history to even generate a score. The best place to start is with a secured credit card. With a secured card, you put down a small deposit, usually around $200, and that deposit becomes your credit limit. You use it for 1 or 2 small purchases a month, like your Netflix subscription, and you pay the bill in full. After about 6 months to a year of responsible use, your score will improve, and you'll be able to graduate to a regular, unsecured credit card. It's like training wheels for your credit. But what if it's too late? What if you're already carrying consumer debt? The first thing to do is stop feeling ashamed. You're not alone. The average American has thousands of dollars in credit card debt. The shame is what keeps people stuck. Facing the numbers is the only way out. Erin lays out two main strategies for tackling debt. They're both effective, but they appeal to different parts of our psychology. The first is the debt avalanche. This is the mathematically optimal way. You list all your debts from the highest interest rate to the lowest. You make the minimum payments on all of them, but you throw every extra dollar you can find at the debt with the highest interest rate. Once that one is paid off, you take all the money you were paying on it and avalanche it onto the debt with the next highest interest rate, and so on. This method saves you the most money in interest over time. But for a lot of people, it can feel painfully slow. It might take forever to knock out that first big debt. That's where the second method comes in, the debt snowball. With this strategy, you list your debts from the smallest balance to the largest, regardless of interest rate. You pay the minimums on everything, but you attack the smallest debt with everything you've got. When that small debt is gone, you get a quick, powerful psychological win. It feels amazing. It builds momentum. You then take the money you were paying on that first debt and snowball it onto the next smallest one. You'll pay a bit more in interest with this method, but if those small victories keep you motivated and on track, it's absolutely the better choice for you. Sometimes behavior matters more than math. Now we have to talk about the Mount Everest of millennial debt, student loans. For many people, it's a number so big and so intimidating that it's easier to just pretend it doesn't exist. But you can't. The first step is knowing exactly what you're dealing with. Are your loans federal or private? You should always prioritize understanding your federal loans first, because the government is a much more forgiving lender than a private bank. Federal loans come with powerful protections, like deferment and forbearance, which allow you to temporarily pause payments if you lose your job or face financial hardship. More importantly, they offer income-driven repayment plans. These plans cap your monthly payment at a percentage of your income, making it actually affordable. And if you're on one of these plans for 20 or 25 years, any remaining balance is forgiven. For people with high debt and modest incomes, especially those working in public service, these plans can be an absolute lifesaver. If you have private loans or high-interest federal loans and a decent job, you should look into refinancing. This is where a new lender pays off your old loans and gives you a new one with a lower interest rate. To qualify, you'll generally need a good credit score, 700 plus, and a steady income. Refinancing can save you thousands of dollars in interest and help you pay off your loans years sooner. As you start building your financial foundation, money stops being just about numbers on a screen and starts intersecting with the most important parts of your life, your relationships. How many times have you been out to dinner with a big group of friends, and that supremely awkward moment arrives when the check comes? Someone had 3 cocktails and the expensive steak, while you just had a salad and water. But then someone cheerfully suggests, "Let's just split it evenly." Your heart sinks. You really can't afford it. But you don't want to be that person, the supposed penny pincher. These situations are incredibly stressful, and they can even damage friendships if they're not handled well. The key, Erin says, is honesty. You don't have to announce your salary to the entire table, but you can be proactive. Say to a friend beforehand, "Hey, I'd love to go, but I'm on a bit of a budget. Would you mind if we just pay for what we order?" A true friend will care way more about spending time with you than about how you split the bill. Or you can suggest cheaper alternatives. Instead of an expensive brunch, maybe it's coffee and a walk in the park. This honesty becomes even more critical when it comes to a romantic partner. For many young people, the most nerve-wracking number to share isn't how many people you've dated. It's your debt. Erin calls this conversation getting financially naked. It's about being completely transparent about your financial situation, your debts, your savings, your credit score, your goals. It's definitely not a first date conversation, but if a relationship is getting serious, it's absolutely essential. Trying to hide financial problems, like credit card debt or student loans, is a form of betrayal that can destroy trust just as surely as any other kind. When you get married, your partner's financial health becomes your own. You need to know what you're getting into, and you both need to be on the same team. Create a judgment-free zone. Everyone makes money mistakes. The goal isn't to blame or shame, but to understand and create a plan together. Will you combine your finances completely? Keep them totally separate? Some kind of hybrid? There's no single right answer, but you have to figure out what works for you as a couple. Finally, once you have your foundation, your budget, your emergency fund, your credit under control, and your debts on a manageable plan, you can turn your attention to the most powerful wealth-building tool available: investing. Many people think investing is basically like gambling. You pick a stock, hope it goes up, and you either win big or lose everything. Erin argues that if investing feels like gambling, you're doing it completely wrong. True investing isn't about short-term bets. It's about long-term ownership. When you buy a stock, you're buying a tiny piece of an actual, real company. And here's something you might not realize. If you have a retirement account at work like a 401k, you're already an investor. You don't need to be some kind of expert to get started. The simplest and most effective strategy for most people is investing in something called an index fund. An index fund is basically a basket that holds tiny pieces of hundreds or even thousands of different companies. For example, an S&P 500 index fund lets you own a small slice of the 500 largest companies in America. This way, you're not betting on any single company. You're betting on the long-term growth of the economy as a whole. Even Warren Buffett, literally one of the greatest investors of all time, recommends this strategy for the average person. The most important thing to understand about investing is the magic of compound interest. This is where your interest starts earning its own interest. Let's say you invest $3,000 at age 25. If it grows by an average of 8% per year, by the time you're 60, that single investment could be worth over $44,000 without you ever adding another penny. But if you wait just 10 years and invest that same $3,000 at age 35, it would only grow to about $20,000. That 10-year delay would cost you nearly $24,000. Time is your greatest asset. The earlier you start, even with tiny amounts, the more powerful the effect of compounding becomes. This is exactly why it's so critical to start saving for retirement as soon as you get your first real job. If your employer offers a 401k match, that's literally free money. If they agree to match your contributions up to, say, 4% of your salary, you should absolutely contribute at least that much to get the full match. Not doing so is basically like turning down a raise. From a childhood donut stand to the complexities of retirement planning, the journey is long, but the principles stay the same. It's about facing the numbers without fear. It's about creating a plan that actually works for you. And it's about understanding that financial health isn't about deprivation. It's about creating a life of choice, freedom, and genuine empowerment. When you really think about it, what Erin Lowry has done with Broke Millennial is give an entire generation permission. Permission to talk about money without shame. Permission to admit we don't know everything. And permission to start small, to mess up, and to learn as we go. The most powerful lesson in this book, at least to me, isn't about any specific budgeting technique or investment strategy. It's the underlying philosophy that financial empowerment begins with a mental shift. It's the realization that money doesn't have to be this terrifying monster under the bed. It's a tool that, once you understand how to use it, can help you build the life you actually want. The story of the Krispy Kreme donuts is so brilliant because it contains the entire financial journey in miniature. There's the initial excitement and ambition, the hard work, the thrill of success, and then the harsh but necessary lesson about reality. Revenue is not profit. There are costs. There are responsibilities. Understanding that simple distinction is the beginning of real financial literacy. Her father wasn't being cruel. He was being a teacher. He was giving her a blueprint for how the world actually works. For a young person standing at the beginning of their journey, maybe just starting their first job or heading off to college, the world of personal finance can feel overwhelmingly complex. And that feeling of being overwhelmed so often leads to doing absolutely nothing. We put off setting up our retirement account. We avoid looking at our student loan balance. We hope that if we just don't pay attention to it, it'll somehow magically sort itself out. This book is the antidote to that paralysis. It breaks down every single one of these intimidating topics into simple, actionable steps. It tells you, you don't need to be an expert to start. You just need to start. So what can you do right now to apply these ideas? I'll give you 3 simple actions. First, break the taboo. Have one honest conversation about money this week. It could be asking your parents how they learned to budget. It could be talking with a friend about saving for a goal you both share. The simple act of talking about money out loud robs it of its power to intimidate you. Second, open a high-yield savings account. Do it today. It takes about 10 minutes online. Set up an automatic transfer of just $10 from your next paycheck. This isn't really about the amount. It's about building the habit of paying yourself first. It's a small win that'll build momentum for bigger ones down the road. Third, find out your credit score. There are tons of free websites and apps that let you check without hurting your score. Don't be afraid of the number. Just look at it. Knowledge is the first step toward control. See where you are right now, so you can start plotting a course to where you actually want to be. That was the book summary of Broke Millennial by Erin Lowry. We've definitely covered the main ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. Actually reading the book is like taking the journey yourself. It's in the specific stories, the detailed explanations, and the encouraging tone that the real transformation happens. This summary is your guide to decide if this is a journey you want to take. If you felt a spark of recognition in these ideas, if you're tired of feeling anxious about money and ready to feel empowered instead, then I genuinely believe this book is worth your time. The lessons in it aren't just about managing money, they're about managing your life. Also, if you found this journey through the book's ideas valuable, I'd be really grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's continue to learn and grow together.